Glory to Jesus Christ. Today we'll be reading the Gospel from Mark, chapter 9, verses 17 to 31, which is read on the Sunday of St. John, the author of the Divine Ladder of Ascent, on the fourth Sunday of Great Lent. And also on this Sunday, we'll also be reading the Gospel for the Feast of Annunciation, but in this video, we'll listen to the commentary from the blessed Theophylact about Mark's Gospel. So let's read chapter 9 of Mark, 17 to 31. Then one of the crowd answered and said, "Teacher, I brought you my son who has a mute spirit, and wherever it seizes him, it throws him down. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid. So I spoke to your disciples that they should cast it out, but they could not." He answered him and said, "O faithless generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him to me." Then they brought him to him, and when he saw him, immediately the spirit convulsed him, and he fell on the ground and wallowed, foaming at the mouth. So he asked his father, "How long has this been happening to him?" And he said, "From childhood, and often thrown him both into the fire and into the water to destroy him. But if you can do anything, have compassion on us and help us." Jesus said to him, "If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes." Immediately the father of the child cried out and said with tears, "Lord, I believe. Help my unbelief." When Jesus saw that the people came running together, he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, "Deaf and dumb spirit, I command you, come out of him and enter him no more." Then the spirit cried out, convulsed him greatly, and came out of him. And he became as one dead, so that many said, "He is dead." But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him up, and he arose. And when he had come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, "Why could we not cast it out?" So he said to them, "This kind can come out by nothing but prayer and fasting." Then they departed from there and passed through Galilee, and he did not want anyone to know it. For he taught his disciples and said to them, "The Son of Man is being betrayed into the hands of men, and they will kill him, and after he is killed, he will rise on the third day." So let's listen to Theophylact commenting on this gospel. First, verses 17 and 18. When he came to his disciples, that is, to the 9 that had not gone up onto the mountain with him, he saw that they were being questioned by the Pharisees. For the Pharisees had seized the opportunity of Jesus' absence to attempt to turn the disciples away from the Lord. The multitude, however, suddenly caught sight of him and greeted him, for they had been longing to see him. And now they caught sight of him and greeted him as if he had just returned from a long journey. Some say that even his appearance had become more beautiful from the light of the transfiguration, and thus it drew the multitudes toward himself to greet him. A man in the crowd spoke in answer to the Lord's question. And was weak in faith, as even the Lord attests when he says, "O faithless generation," and again, "To him who believes, all things are possible." The man himself attests to his unbelief when he says, "Help my unbelief." That this man complains against the disciples clearly shows his unbelief, for he ought not to have accused them in front of everyone, but privately. And then verses 19 to 27. The man who approached the Lord accused the disciples of not having the power to heal. But the Lord turns the blame to him, all but saying, "It is your unbelief which is the cause of your son's not being healed." The Lord does not address only this man, but he addresses this saying to all, reproaching all the Jews for their unbelief. For it is likely that many of the bystanders were also scandalized by the disciples' inability to heal. The Lord shows that he welcomes death when he says, "How long shall I be with you?" Meaning, it is a torment to me to live with you and your unbelief. But he does not just reproach them, but grants the healing as well. He does not desire to heal the son as a show of his power, but rather he proceeds with great humility. See how he does not attribute the healing to his own power, but to the man's faith when he says, "All things are possible to him that believes." Furthermore, as he saw a crowd beginning to gather around, He rebuked the spirit, not wanting to heal in front of the crowd as though for show. When he rebuked the spirit and said, "Come out of him and enter no more into him," this suggests that because of the man's unbelief, the demon would have again entered into him if it had not been prevented by the Lord's command. The Lord permits the spirit to rend the son so that all might recognize the attack of the demon and understand that it would have killed the man if it had not been held in check by the hand of God. A man is thrown by a demon into the fire of anger and desire and into water, meaning into the pounding surf of worldly cares. This demon is both mute and deaf. It is deaf, not wanting to hear the words of God, and it is mute, not able to teach others what ought to be taught. But if Jesus, who is the word of the gospel, should take him by the hand, that is, strengthen his power to act, then that man will be freed from the demon. See how God first helps us, and then we ourselves are required to work. For the evangelist says, Jesus lifted him up. This is the divine help, and he arose. This is the effort of the man himself to do good. And then verses 28 and 29. The disciples were afraid that they had lost the grace which the Lord had given them, and this was why they had not been able to cast out the demon. See that out of respect they approached the Lord privately. This kind, what kind? This kind which may make their abode in lunatics or in general, the whole race of demons, does not come out except through prayer and fasting. Both the one suffering and the one about to heal must fast. Both are necessary. Good sense dictates that the one suffering must fast. He must not only fast, but also pray. And he must not only pray, but also fast. For true prayer is rendered when it is yoked to fasting. When the one who prays is not weighed down by the effects of food, his prayer is not burdened and ascends easily. And then verses 30 and 31. Whenever the Lord spoke of his passion on the cross, he would proceed and follow his words with miracles, so that no one could think that he would suffer because he was powerless. And when he spoke sad words such as, "They shall kill me," he would add words of joy. "He shall rise the third day," teaching us that gladness always follows after grief, and that we should not anguish needlessly in our sorrows, but should hope for better things. And this is the gospel on the fourth Sunday of Great Lent. Glory to Jesus Christ.